Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Concrete Reality TV, where we strive to know more and do more with what we know. I got a co-host that's coming in with me, the author Danelle Wright. She's gonna be joining me. She's gonna be taking the reins over for this. I'm taking the back seat, and I'm honored to have her. We're gonna be discussing fatherlessness and chivalry. So, Ms. Wright, welcome to Concrete Reality TV. I'm gonna let you take it from here.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here. And thank you everyone for joining us. The number of single parent households are rising at an alarming rate. How does this change impact the home and how does fatherlessness affect the future generation? Is chivalry dead due to the lack of fathers, or is it unnecessary due to women's fight for equality? So, this is the things that we want to be talking about today. And these are the things that we want you to chime in on, ask questions, give us feedback, so that we can definitely go ahead and answer those and discuss those. I want to introduce a very special guest on tonight. That is Dr. K. Jones Jr. He is the
What's up? What's
author
up?
of The Stressors of Fatherhood, a distinctively unique perspective. Sorry, I trying to get tongue tied saying that. But anyways, welcome to the podcast today, Dr. Jones.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm happy to
So
be here.
before we get started in our discussion, we have also Emmy Award winner Araya McGurry. She's going to be joining us later. So before we get started in our discussion, we want to bring you into a little bit of the history of our topics and what we're talking about to get into our discussion. So bear with us as we get that video going.
Okay, so this is a special from 1986. Let me go on there because it had basically a gentleman discussing him being not being an active father in his children's lives. He has multiple kids, and he's giving a reasoning why he is not active in there. And I thought it was a good thing to show because it kind of highlights the contrasting from then till now and where we are, where we're at. So let me put it on. We could check it on out.
Does it make you feel bad that you can't support your kids?
Yes.
How do they make it? Where do they get the money?
Well, the majority of them, the mothers on welfare, and welfare gives them a stipend for the month. So what I'm not doing, the government does.
What would happen if the government didn't?
This is a big disaster, I guess, because you can't give something that you don't have. In order to give, you got to have for yourself.
You see, people out there watching are going to say, why didn't he think about that before he brought 6 kids into the world?
Well, mother had a choice. She could have had an abortion, or she could have kept the child. She decided the way that she wanted to have the child, so therefore, I guess it's not sweating her. I mean, it's not bothering.
You think it's her fault if she gets pregnant?
Well,
And you fought her.
Well, maybe not. I just say mama, baby, papa, maybe. You know what I mean?
A week before their last baby is born, Alice came for what is only her 4th visit to the doctor.
So I know that's a lot to digest, but he kind of represents, men's perspective, a lot of men's perspective then and now. So I'm curious about you guys' thoughts on that.
I'm going to let you go first, Dr. Jones.
I don't agree that he represents anybody but himself. So I'm going to say that what he is talking about and what he said, I feel may resonate with the mentality of some men today, but not all men, even from yesterday or 20, 30 years ago. If a woman is able to make the choice to have a baby or not, and that's her sole right, then what he said and a nutshell for me is that it's not his sole responsibility. So maybe the question should be being asked to both of them and not just him. Why do we continuously want to put the man on the spot as far as the responsibility of taking care of a child when it takes a village, regardless? And if he should have thought about it, why didn't the question come up? Why didn't she think about it?
Hmm.
And I definitely agree with you, Dr. Jones, in regards to a lot of what you said. I think it's a joint responsibility. We can't put the responsibility totally on men. And a lot of times we like to do that, but then we also want the right to say it's our body. We have the right to keep our baby if we want to because it's happening in our body. So I definitely feel like there's a contradiction there. But in agreement with you, I feel like both mother and father should have been sitting at that questionnaire. I feel like both of them have the right to decide not to have sex outside of a marital union. Both of them have the right to use protection and to protect themselves from the consequences of furthering our generation and broken homes. I think that I agree with Dr. Jones in regards to the fact that they both made a decision to put themselves and their children in that situation. And the problem that needs to be discussed is how do we stop making those type of irresponsible decisions?
Well, so we so we got two perspectives on here. I don't know. With me, I definitely disagree with, of course, his mindset. I understand how a lot of guys that I've run into, they don't say it out loud, but of course, in the conversations with men without you guys around, you ladies around, you get that, and of course, it's bad, but I don't know if that's if that's something that's learned or if it's something that they're saying just to prove themselves around other men. I don't know. We talk like that, so I'm not sure. What else do you think on that topic? Do you think regarding? Let me go there. You think it's learned behavior, or you think it's something that people are trying to imitate?
In my opinion, I feel like it's both. I believe that it's learned behavior because certain things have become normal in society. And when you have a social norm, it's easier for people not to feel convicted when they do those things because everybody's doing it. It's the norm. So I think that gives a comfort where there shouldn't be a comfort. We shouldn't have that as the norm for people to feel like, okay, well, it's not just me. It's the majority or it's a lot of people that I know. So I think that it's learned and it's a lack of responsibility. It's a lack of them wanting to take responsibility for their own actions. And in my opinion, that is something personal that we need to heal from because we have responsibilities. We try to run from them. We try to play the blame game. But when it comes down to it, we both share equal responsibilities and the blame game doesn't resolve anything. Dr. Jones, you want to come in behind me?
Of course I will. If we're going to talk about mindset and responsibility, then a mindset is something that can be changed, can be learned, whether it's from a biological parent or a role model in the neighborhood or in your life. Changing our mindset changes our behavior. So if we start with mindset, then yeah, we need to start changing the mindsets of our young men and women, right? Because my book, Stressors of Fatherhood, is a journey into equal rights for men. Not the book doesn't talk about, battling against women and men are better than women and nothing like that. It's just basically simple equal rights. We're talking about fatherlessness and the father not being in the home, but and like the gentleman said, listen to conversations and they don't say it outright, but at the end of the day, you're hearing that a man doesn't want to be a part of the household or however it may come about. That's not, in my expert opinion, the biggest problem. The biggest problem is equal rights. And we always want to blame the father, right? When something goes wrong in the household or with the child. You know, let the child go to juvenile hall. Oh, you got that from your dad. Oh, it must be in you must got that from your dad's side of the family. Let him get in trouble at school. You acting just like your dad. Let him go to the NFL. Thank you, mom. So I think the issue is we keep trying to place blame, like Ms. Wright just said. We need to stop the place and blame game, but we also need to be able to speak what's really going on in our communities, our cultures as Black families, our white families, Latino families, it don't matter. Somehow, in the midst of all of the spider web of events, because we don't know why the father isn't in a home or the mother isn't in a home. We don't know why it's a single parent home. We don't find the actual problem. So we can't have an actual solution.
I would
right?
agree with that.
So that's where I'll keep it for right now. However, I really think that the focus shouldn't be on fatherlessness, even though that's the topic, on the absence of a father, but the absence of a parent.
Now, I see that you just brought up single parent statistics in 2023, mothers versus fathers. I'm going to try to expand my screen. So
that title is an issue. Not to cut you off, but that title is an issue. That's the biggest issue. Mothers versus fathers.
It's the division there that shows that there isn't any unity to address an issue that's affecting everybody.
But I'll let you read your statistical page. Go ahead.
This is some of the things that I wanted to bring out. As far as fatherlessness goes, I wanted to bring that out because I believe that fathers are important in the home, not because they're the problem for not being in the home, because I think that they don't want to be. Yes, there are some fathers that fit that category. But when I talk about fatherlessness, I'm talking about the importance of that father in the home and what it gives to children that helps them in the long run, what it's going to do for our community, what it's going to do for our cultures. So let me clarify that at first. There are a lot of statistics that show single parents, whether they are male or female, experience some of the same similar struggles in parenting their children. And those are some of the things that I want to talk about because we want to show unity between male and female single parents. So while these statistics do show that there is somewhat of a difference, that's only because primarily we all know that there are more single mothers than there are single fathers. But while we say that, we also know that the rate of single fathers are increasing every day. So there are more and more single fathers that are stepping up to be that single parent and to be in their children's life full time. So with the statistics, it does say here, 80% of all single parents in the United States are single mothers. 52.9% of single mothers are millennials. That means they're young. 15.6 million children live in single mother households. 52.3% of single mothers have never been married. I'm going to kind of skip through some of this because it seems like a lot of mother statistics, but I also have some statistics here that will kind of go into covering the father. There are 18.
Hey, excuse me, Danelle. Hey, not to interrupt. All right, do you have you have like an echo? Do you have something on?
I don't have it.
Okay, because it might be the phone. If you have a phone on one of the websites.
Let me make sure. Is it still an echo?
Hold
on.
Let me take a look, make sure.
Okay, how about now?
Hold on. Okay.
I get an echo with you too.
Okay, and do you hear any echoes?
Dr. Jones, do you hear an echo?
No, I don't hear an echo at all.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to continue.
Okay, go ahead.
Do I need to stop?
You good.
Okay. Dr. Jones, of the statistics that I came across today said 18.5 million kids in the United States live with a single parent, mother or father. Think about it. 18.5 million kids in the United States. We're just talking about single parents, not male or female. That's a high rate in the United States. Now, 15.3 million children are with single mothers. 3.2 million children live with a single father. Now, that is a high number for them not to have equal resources. Like, for instance, as a single father, how do you change your children? As a single father, what kind of responses do you get when you were raising your daughter and she wants to have a sleepover or a get together? I want to know from a male perspective. I'm a mother. I know what I experienced as a single mother, but I kind of want you to go into what you experience as the struggles for single fathers.
The first thing I would want to say is I would, as a scientist, like to know exactly where the statistical information came from.
This came from Finances Online 2022 statistics from U.S. Census.
Got you. And then the second thing with the ratio, the 80-20 gap, that gap in there, I want to address the fact that the courts don't know what they're doing. And hopefully a judge or two from family court can be on this forum. And that's another reason that my book needs to go out to social services and things of that nature, those platforms or those industries, because the courts automatically, no matter what, I've been in the courtroom as a psychologist, I've been in the courtroom as an individual in family court, and it just really seems that the balance beam is a little tilted towards women. So that could be the reason why these statistics are saying 80% women to 20% men. However, let's look at the jump from, say, 2005. It was 150,000 single male homes. But in 2022, it's 3 million. That's a really big jump.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's address why we think that is happening. Is it women independent rights and women not being in the home? Because my book addresses, and it has real empirical data, real people. That's why I did a qualitative study to show that what are men going through?
Right.
You know, some men lost their wife to death. And now that's how they, became a single parent. Some, the mother just left, like, I don't want this life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's how but we don't hear about those types of things because, for one, in the United States of America, people don't want to read. Okay, a little more of my background, I teach cybersecurity as well. And as a cybersecurity expert, one of the biggest reasons why other countries attack the United States is the same reason we use TikTok. And please don't sue me, TikTok. But at the end of the day, we never read the policies or the disclaimers, right? So other countries feel like we don't like to read, so they attack us. Guess what? In America, we still don't read. Reading is fundamental. We don't read the fine print. We don't read enough to be able to educate each other so that that balance can happen. We're dealing with our emotions. So when we get emotional, we go to court. When we get emotional, we fight. When we get emotional, we blame, right? So that means that we're dealing with our brain activity, and then our physical activity exhibits, oh, we're going to have a fight in front of the kid, or we're going to go to court. And the mom says whatever she has to say to a judge, and then all of a sudden, the mom has the kids and the father is gone. And that's what I was talking about in the earlier, where I say we don't know the deep scars or the deep things that's going on behind the scene on the reason why it's more single parent households that has mothers as opposed to more single parent households that has fathers. And again, like the title said, it's always one versus the other.
Right.
We can still raise our kids equally and not be in the same household.
Right. I agree with that. Ephraim, before we continue, did you want to show the other slide, or are we past that? Or
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay.
We're just going to use that one. I think that set the tone.
Okay. So Ephraim, a little bit about your background. You grew up without a father in the home, but you're raising your son with your wife. Can you tell me the difference in what you experienced as a single child, a child being raised in a single parent home versus what you're trying to do with your child, and what's the difference in what you see in him?
With me, my goal, because I grew up in a single parent household, the lack of a father, I don't know what that is because we never had one. The assumption of fatherlessness is based on the idea that having a father would be better. We all assume that, hey, because, we have one of those, life would be better. Well, we don't know that. That's all assumption based on the person's characteristics, the relationship between mother and father. So we don't know that. We assume that it would be better, but it's not always the case. So I never had a father, but I don't know what I missed. I see my other friends when I grew up, they had fathers. Some of them didn't. I usually set them as the threshold to be the basis of, I think that's how it's supposed to work. So without having an active father, I pretty much had a lot of people that stepped into the role of being a father for me. And then I just took from them. And that I became a big mold, kind of amalgamation of who all of them were to me. And then what I saw on TV, and then what I assume you're supposed to act like being a father. And that's how I raised my son, as this kind of entity of what I think a father is supposed to be. And it's all hit or miss. And some days it's hit, some days it's miss. But I'm assuming from other parents, the veterans in the room, that it's like that. It's OJT, on the job training. And that's what I kind of got from the whole system of learning on the go with being a father.
Now, one of your other podcasts, you had covered how the laws are biased with women, which reminded me of what Dr. Jones just mentioned, and him sitting in cases, and he's saying it's kind of skewed more toward women. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. This usually, because, for example, it's per state, but typically, for example, in Georgia, mothers, they're automatically given sole custody, primary custody of the child right off the bat. They come out the womb. You guys have the primary custody of the child, and the father has to go through the legitimation process, the court system, to try to fight for their parental rights. And that's the big difference between mothers and fathers. You guys automatically get the parental rights, and the fathers have to go through a whole system process to earn theirs. So that's where it kind of, it's definitely skewed.
Okay. Well, before I comment on that, do you want to jump in and comment, Dr. Jones?
No, I just don't have a comment, just a question for Ephraim. So in your experience, so now what do you think a father looks like? Because you said you didn't know what one looked like. You had to kind of go through on a job training. So now what do you think a father should look like in a home?
Honestly, that I don't know. I'm still figuring it out day by day, because like I said, some days I feel like I'm Cliff Huxtable, and then other days I feel like I'm Joe Jackson. We all want to be Cliff, but then some days we end up looking like, Joe. So I guess it kind of plays on itself.
No, I think that's a awesome answer. And I know you're the host, Danielle. I just had a quick question.
No, listen, this is a discussion. So we bouncing off of each other here. I'm on the panel with some brilliant minds. I'm just one of them. I gotta give them
for me, if you have, awesome men and role models in your life, I'm not saying that the absence of a father is okay, but my issue is we keep blaming the father. So if a kid goes to prison or a young man goes to jail, we automatically want to say, just like just a real quick example, and I deal with veterans as well. Every time something happens with a veteran, the first thing that come up is PTSD. without any diagnosis, without anybody being an expert, we automatically blame it on PTSD. And it's just an example. Every time something goes bad with a child, we automatically blame the father if it's something negative instead of saying parents. And that's, again, when I talk about resources in my book and when I refer to individuals raising their children, I make it a point not to say a single mother or a single father, a single parent. We too divided. That's why the nuclear family isn't together anymore, in my personal opinion. In my expert opinion, it's been a long time coming. It's over generations that we've been separating, and the man doesn't even want to be in the household anymore. See, those are the discussions and the statistical figures we need to start presenting to each other and to forums like this. Where are men at? Why don't the man want to be a part of the household no more?
Mhm.
Maybe I don't want to be responsible. I just want to have a kid, but I can't get pregnant. I mean, let's talk some real talk here.
That is exactly what I want to get into. So let me ask you men on the panel a question. What is the problem? How do we honor you guys more to where you don't feel discarded or ignored and just like the person that's supposed to give? How does a woman see your perspective without losing her own? Now, and a piggyback to that question, and you guys can decide who wants to go first, but a piggyback to that question or a part two is, are roles, gender roles, right to teach our children going forward? Should it be taught that the man is the provider, the protector? Should it be taught that the woman is the nurturer? Should it be taught that the woman is to take care of the house and be submissive? Should those roles still be taught in today's society to our children being raised now? So on those two questions, whichever one.
Doc, you want to go take the lead on that? I'm gonna let you jump on it. I know it's a lot of meat on that bone.
I think in the word roles, right, we need to understand what being a provider actually means. We need to understand what being a protector actually means. We need to have a definitive, a definition of those words in teaching them. You know, and a lot of times, and this is kind of tying into the chivalry part of this, you know, some things just come natural. A protector, being anything, shouldn't say, just like for a woman or a man, you just because you're a man, you're supposed to do this. Nah, it should come natural from your upbringing, from your culture. Our families we don't have cultures in the Black family. I'm a Black man, so I can only speak to my Black community. I don't see my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother in the household. That's teaching the culture. We're sending our kids out to YouTube when we don't want to be bothered. That's their culture, and then we want to blame the father, our fatherlessness, because that kid is learning from YouTube. I'm a college professor. I taught K through 12 as well. Kids do what they learn around the board. So it takes a village that's profound. It takes a village. So who's going to be a part of your village is the roles that we're talking about here. Providing don't mean that if the man can't afford to take care of a child, he's a deadbeat. However, the mother can't afford to take care of the child either, but she's just a great, strong Black woman. And I only can speak to my Black community.
So in regards to that, in just fulfilling the questions, what do you think that women can do to help the man want to stay in a family setting? Because we know that the number of marriages have declined in today's society. We know the divorce rate is rise. Like
over 50%.
I'm sorry?
Over 50%.
Exactly. So like you said, why don't the fathers want to stay in the relationships? Why don't they want to get married? What is the problem, and what can women do to help that unity get back where it should be?
You got to find what has changed.
That's what I'm asking you.
The world. I mean, even your question was, how do we accept or embrace the male perspective without losing your own?
Right.
That's the $1 million question. Why do a woman have to feel like she has to lose something to embrace something?
Why does it feel like to women that if we take a submissive role, and I'm not saying everybody, because I've met some men that can give you their opinion and respect yours at the same time, but we're talking about the number of broken homes right now. So it is very common for women to feel like they get treated like they should, in their roles, they should be fulfillers and helpers and not heard.
Okay. Well, go ahead, sir.
Now, quick, I need to test some audio because they say we still got an echo
Okay.
on here.
My
So give me a
phone is off.
second. I'm gonna remove you, Danelle, real quick. I gotta
Okay.
troubleshoot real quick. Okay,
Is it an
so
echo?
I'm still getting an echo. And give me 1 second. Okay,
I don't have an echo now.
good. Thank you.
Okay. Did
All
you
that.
want to fill in on what we were talking about? Or
Oh, and Nan's back.
now the echo is back.
So something's up. That's annoying.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my mic and let's
I'm
see
gonna
if
use my mic too if I'm not talking. That might help.
Okay, I'm gonna test something. Mic check. No echo. Okay,
now I'm
a
gonna
little
mute.
bit. Give me one moment. Okay. It's intermittent, so we'll see.
All right. I don't have an echo right now. So did you want to piggyback on what we were talking about? You ready to answer your question, or were you finished, Dr. Jones?
Oh no, I'm listening to Mr. Ephraim.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Acapella.
Okay, so still getting a little echo, but I guess we're just gonna have to
I'm
work
gonna
through it.
mute my mic while you talk.
And D Holloway, I think we got somebody in the waiting room named D Holloway.
That's Damu, Danielle.
Yes, go ahead and let him in. This is an
Okay.
associate of Dr. Jones that we're just going to welcome in to give us some of his words of wisdom on this.
Okay. Okay, so we're bringing in Mr. D Holloway. What's
Do you
going
want
on? How you doing, sir?
All
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I'm going to let Dr. Jones introduce you a little bit.
All right.
All right, yeah, this is my childhood friend, and when I say childhood, all the way from really preschool, kindergarten, all that. Business owner and somebody that I turn to a lot because he's so down to earth. However, he's unfiltered. So really good man. And he raised his children, so he'll be good for this topic.
Welcome, Mr. Holloway.
Welcome,
Thank you
sir.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes,
Have
sir.
you been able to tune into the discussion so far, sir?
Yes, I've been listening.
You got something to add already?
With the gender roles, I think children do need to be taught gender roles. You know, they may change a little bit because, you know, this ain't the 50s. You know, got two parents working in a home together now, but gender roles are important to me. You know, you don't, you know, as a man, I couldn't imagine teaching my son that, you know, if danger was, you know, happening to him as an adult and in his family, that he would expect his wife to, you know, go see what's happening instead of himself.
So so that's great, and thank you for sharing that. So with the panel, I'm the only woman here. Oh well, listen, no problem. I can hold my own, right?
All right.
So now, to the men on the panel, I want to ask you this: if gender roles is something that we should continue to teach, how does that play into chivalry versus women's equality? Because you said, Dr. Jones, that it comes natural. It comes natural for who? And how does that become natural from a man? And then what about when you come around a woman that is not like that? She don't want you to open doors for her. She don't want you to walk on the right side of the street. How do you handle that and still maintain who you are and how you were raised in your culture, whatever?
Well, it's like playing sports. You know, you're taught the basics. Once you're taught the basics of gender roles, you know, hey, you see dad, if dad is in the house, you see dad taking out the trash, then naturally you say, oh, I'm supposed to take out the trash. Or dad opened the door for mom, or a male role model. If mom is dating or married, then we're hoping that that male role model is doing those things. And then when I say natural, I mean, then you take it to the next level. I can learn the basics of playing soccer or basketball, but then I learn other things that will come natural when I'm playing my game, because it goes from being taught the basics to becoming my game at that point. And the other part of your question is, you know, just being honest, men aren't attracted to masculinity. So when women walking around being masculine, why I need to open up the door for you when, shoot, you beat up the dude that was younger than me. I didn't even get a chance to clap back or defend myself, and you jumped in there first. You know, I mean, that's jokingly, but honestly, men aren't attracted to masculinity. And we have a lot of women walking around, don't want a man to want to prove I'm a woman, hear me roar, instead of just being in a relationship with somebody.
But
That's
with
why
that change what you teach your son growing up. When you
no,
see when it's more common to see women acting like that, with that change what you're teaching your children.
no.
If I may chime in, and this is just speaking from experience, my son is about to be 25, and I've heard young ladies in his generation speak about how respectful he is. You know, he has chivalry. You know, that's an example of me. You know, it's certain things that I taught him, but we all know children learn what they see, not what you say. So I have to take it back. You know, I was raised in a 2-parent home, but not with my biological father. I had a stepdad, and I saw the way that he treated my mom. So I just, you know, took on some of his traits, and my son took on some of my traits. You know what I'm saying? And to piggyback off of what Dr. Jones said a minute ago about mine just went blank, brother. When you talked about what you said after
That men aren't attracted to masculinity.
yeah, men aren't. They're not. You know, they might find you attractive enough to want to hit for one night, but they're not attracted to you to put a ring on a finger. You know, it's just, you know, I don't want to be with a woman that, you know, is, you know, rough and tough. And, you know, I don't mind her being a little aggressive. You know, my children's mother, you know, she wasn't masculine, but when the kids had problems at school, whatever or whatnot, she was stern when defending them, you know. So, you know, we enjoy a lady that's going to be stern, but not masculine.
Hey, quick question. Now listening to you guys, I'm still curious. Now this one is kind of out the box because Danelle, I didn't tell you I was going to ask this question, but what can a father provide that a mother could not accomplish on her own, other than additional income in this modern society?
I was going to ask that.
Oh, okay, we on the point. We here.
I know one thing. And I did this with my daughter, and I'm also doing this with my granddaughter. You know, you don't want children jumping and sitting on a man's lap. You don't want a little girl sitting with, you know, like a dude with her legs wide open while she have a dress on. To me, that's important to come from a father or a grandfather, because, you know, it's easy for mom or any female in the family to say, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. You shouldn't sit like this. Sit like a lady. But I think it's more powerful when it comes from a male figure in their life, because I'm trying to word this the correct way. But anyway, I just think it's more powerful when it comes from a male figure in their life to young girls.
And it's simple as the male presence. You know, I taught high school cybersecurity, and when I'm walking through campus, I can see down the hallway, and this is a real example, and some young men and women, little girls, young boys and girls, were just doing things they weren't supposed to do. And the teacher, female teacher, was trying to get them to stop. But just me walking through the hallway made everybody kind of stop and calm down. I did end up saying anything, but even at that point, I didn't have to. So I think just the male presence, and I mean, you know, any male presence kind of changed the dynamics of what's going on. So to piggyback on what Mr. Holloway said, at the end of the day, some things just are more powerful coming from a man to a child, to a daughter or a son. You know, and again, I just got to keep my position on the versus thing. That question, I love that question. However, that's that division again.
Mm-hmm.
We talking about what can a man do that a woman can't do. We keep dividing each other up, and it's all about parenting and being on the same page. You know, I talked to Dr. Holloway. It's gonna happen, Mr. Holloway. And, you know, in some of our conversations, it's just like, you know, the parents got to be on the same page. Mm-hmm. You don't have to live in the same house to be on the same page. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't live in a house. I'll give some of my personal background, something I don't like doing. But my dad didn't live in the household. My mom didn't tell me to go see my dad. I found out a way to go see my dad. I learned how to ride the bus so I can go see my dad. And I'm talking 9 years old. I'm trying to figure out, I wanted to see my dad. My mom didn't keep me from my dad. She just didn't take me to him. And I figured it out on my own. So I think it comes at an individual household and the individual basis on how we're going to end up, you know, taking in the information of the world and becoming, you know, just good products to our community in this world, period. So
let me say this, being the only woman on the panel, I was raised without a father. And I have heard you, Ephraim, say that you didn't miss what you didn't have. It wasn't like the absence of a father was really realized in your youth because you never had it. Me, from a woman's perspective, and I don't know if it's different for a man, but from a woman's perspective, I absolutely missed having my father in the home. My book is titled The House Without Doors. The reason why is because, in my opinion, and what I share in my book, is how unprotected I felt without a father in my life, and a lot of the struggles that I went through because I didn't have the presence of the father. And piggybacking on what Dr. Jones just said, he was saying the presence of a man makes a difference. As you get into the initial start of my book, I said that. I said a lot of kids that I grew up with was terrified to hear their mother say, "I'm going to tell your father when he gets home." We didn't so much feel like that about our mothers, even though our mothers all may have been a disciplinarian. Almost all the time, the presence of that male figure in the home brought about a different personality and character in the children that were in that home, whether they were stepchildren or biological children. If you had a loving father in the home, I have always seen a difference. The friends that I've had have always had a different lifestyle than me. They've always had more confidence than me. They've always had more stability than me. They didn't have the same fears that I had. So I would say, in my opinion, to answer your question, and in raising my own kids, my kids now are 27, 22, 20, and then my minor children. But my grown children, I absolutely see a difference. As great as I feel like I was as a mother, there are things that I see in my grown children now that I couldn't provide as a woman, that I knew that they needed to get from a father figure. So I'm going to say that there are some things that a man brings to the table that no matter how good of a mother you are, you cannot replace.
So we're safe to say that, you know, on Father's Day, mothers should stop saying, "I need a father."
Absolutely. I have a pet peeve against that. You are not a father just because you raise your child by yourself.
And that right there is another thing that happens in a household to me. When the mother is acting like the man, guess what? Your daughter's going to pick that up. And that masculinity is going to follow her. And a man is not going to treat her like, I guess, the full-fledged woman. I don't know. It's an individual thing. You know what I mean? But that's that men aren't attracted to masculinity thing. So if a woman is, you can have it. I'm for women's rights. Mm-hmm. But nobody's for women's rights. I mean, for men's rights. See, my book, Stretches of Fatherhood, if it was Stretches of Motherhood, it'll be a bestseller right now. I'm just being honest.
Hey, that actually leads into your other question, Danelle.
Right. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yep, about the resources needed for single fathers.
So as we tie this together in unity, because that was our initial goal, we could talk about differences from a parent, from a mother to a father. And the reason why I did want to mention those things is because I wanted us to see how we can support each other. There are some things that single mothers go through that maybe single fathers don't experience as much, but then there are also things that single fathers go through that single mothers don't experience. So Dr. Jones, if you can touch on some of the research that you've done in your book and let us know from a male perspective, a single father's perspective, what are some resources and things that you feel are greatly lacking for single fathers and how we can support that, and some changes that need to be made, whether it be with laws, with communities, with women, with families, churches. What do we need to know today?
Yeah, awareness is the biggest thing. Because if we're not aware, how can we fix the problem? You know, like in my book, it says it is proven that 10% of men experience symptoms of postpartum depression. Now, if we got 50 women in here, how many of those women knew that? No, we think that only women suffer. Yeah, that's a small percentage, just like you can say, 80% of households are women to 20%. That's a big difference. 10%, yeah, it might seem minor, but it's still there. So if we don't have that awareness, how can we have programs or resources to help men? So again, it comes with reading and really doing your research, or instead of having that versus, just have parents. And I also talk about naming conventions in my book, which is also awareness. And with naming conventions, they have a program called WIC, Women, Infant, and Children. Before the pandemic, I was supposed to go to Washington and talk to Congress. Because the naming convention, why it can't be FIC, Family, Infants, and Children? Because men also can utilize the WIC resources, but he don't know that. In my book, I totally break down from different male perspectives that are single parents and put their stories in there. And that awareness is how we continue to build programs and to get resources to men. Because women have resources, but men should have those same resources when they're taking care of their children. Whether it's, my definition of a single parent is you're just not getting no help, you're doing it on your own. Okay. But I'm saying that definition of a single parent, when you don't have no help, not two parents where you're getting child support from the man and whatever. I'm talking about somebody that don't have help. He needs those resources too if he's a male. And awareness is how he's going to get those resources.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me unmute myself. I want to open up while we're talking about this. I want to open up to the viewers. If anybody has comments, questions, go ahead and type it in the box. We want to address them. You can ask Dr. Jones. You can address myself or any of the panel members. If you want to ask a direct question, or if you just want to ask the panel a question, go ahead and type in your questions or comments, and we will read them and recognize you. But also, while you're doing that, I want to say that I want to bring some attention and awareness to the struggles of single parenting in general. There are certain things that single parents struggle with that we just need to talk about. When you talked about, Dr. Jones, of doing it alone, you don't really understand what that feels like unless you do it alone. When you are the only person that has to get up in the middle of the night, when you are the one that have to take off of work whenever the kids is sick and you're struggling with your job security because you're the only person your kids can count on, when the school is coming at you and judging you because you don't have the time to be there for the activities and the meetings and all this and that, or you miss checking your child's homework that day because you work in 2 jobs, or you're trying to do this and that. When you have a single parent home, we are pulled away a lot of times from parenting. And then when our children get involved with things like social media, a lot of times they get influenced more by social media than the single parent, not because we don't love them, not because we aren't nurturers, not because we don't have their best interest at heart, but because it is so hard to do everything by yourself. And there aren't enough resources for us not to take away from our parenting. Like if I have to work 2 jobs to make sure my children can eat, to make sure we have transportation, to make sure they have clothes on their back, to make sure that we are living at least the basic level of what we need to live and be okay. If it takes me to work 2 jobs, 2 shifts, then who's raising my children? And then if it costs me $1,500 a month in childcare, and that is not an extreme, that is reality today. If it costs me that per month in childcare, how can I effectively raise my children by myself without any help or any resources? Because if you're not below the poverty level as a single parent, you don't get a lot of assistance. There might be assistance and resources out there, but you're not getting them. You don't have nobody to help you with a lot of what comes with parenting. Now, we made the decision to make these babies, and we are owning up to our responsibilities by doing it. But that doesn't mean that a lot of our tax dollars and resources that's out there can't be perfected so that it actually makes a difference in the community. Anybody want to come in behind me on that?
Man, you put a basis there. I don't know, because when we talk about this, I know it's so many foundations to this, so many viewpoints, and it could go left so quick. So I understand that we're supposed to be working together. Dr. Jones, you said that we're supposed to be working in unity, but the narrative that's being promoted and being pushed out every day, all day, is promoting division. We talk about gender, talking about gender roles, these traditional families is all being torn apart. And I'm not trying to say whether it's good or bad. I'm just, stating the obvious that we're all exposed to it. It's happening. So are you guys saying that this is that we should be going back to the traditional roles? Or are you still open to accepting what's happening now with removing the traditional gender types, the agencies that were built in our society, and then allowing people to be who they want to be and act how they want to act?
Traditional gender roles.
Well, let's say this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to say this. I think that with modernization, you still should keep some traditional things in place. It's like history, just so you can know where you come from and how you really should act. I don't think you should totally change to a modern perspective or lifestyle without knowing why you changed in the first place. I'm trying to get a good example. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I just think that you should keep some modern things, some traditions in place. I think it's important, while moving forward. And that's where I'll leave that. And for Ephraim, going left real quick, I get that. But that's the part, like I just spoke to my sister earlier, and me and my sister, we have a good dialogue. And that's the part I told her is like, the women that think like you never speak up because we don't want things to go left. So you might agree with a man perspective, but you don't say nothing because the masses are what people are pushing. So it's trending. Gucci trends, Fendi trends, right? It's all, and then you see all these little kids out here trying to do what it takes to get Fendi instead of trying to do what it takes to get financially free or wealthy. They just want to figure out, how can I get a Fendi bag because that's trending. So my point is, when it comes to mindset, like we talked about earlier, when it comes to roles and all of these things wrapped up in that nice, good Chipotle burrito, it just looks ugly. But nobody wants to talk about the ugly. We just want to talk about that nice wrap looking burrito. We just want to talk about the outside. But we got to start getting into the ugly so that we can start fixing things. And that's where coming together is important. We need to stop talking about single women, single men, or single mothers and single fathers. Just parents need to start figuring it out. It's no real solution, no real what's the word I'm looking for? It's you got to make it. It's on a job training. Thank you, Ephraim.
Mhm.
It's on a job training.
So let me say this, and I want to get to you, Mr. Holloway. In what you're saying, Dr. Jones, in us dealing with the issue, the elephant in the room. If we're dealing with the issue and we're dealing with single parenting, the issue is we're making decisions without taking responsibility. And I'm not talking about male or female, I'm talking about the parents. So in addressing how these children keep getting raised in divided homes and single homes, because we know that eventually down the line, statistics and research has shown that it does affect a child to have a single parent home versus both parents in the home. So in addressing why that number is rising still, how do we address that and offer solutions to our community and realizing why the homes keep getting broke up? Why is that? And that kind of brings me back to the chivalry and what are we teaching our children? Because nowadays, as a single parent, do you have time to really influence your children, or does social media have more influence over our children than we do? How do we get that back? And how do we show them what a family should look like if the norm is to have broken homes, if that's all they see in their communities and on social media? How do we get control back to be the primary influencer of our children? And how do we ourselves fix the problem that's causing so many houses to be broken?
I think it needs to start with program, because there are so many broken up household and single parents. There needs to be some programs like Boys and Girls Clubs offer programs that start teaching the younger generation of parents how to raise children. Okay. And then, how to raise children is everybody, it's an individual thing, but and overall, and that's the reason I go back to traditional. But how to raise children, because today's generation of kids, the majority of them, they think it's okay to see their little child twerk, or the little boy with the pants hanging off his butt, throwing up signs and saying certain things. And, here in Fresno, we have a whole bunch of shootings and killings, and everybody, they have all these organizations, Stop the Violence and all that. But I say this many times over again. We're looking at 10, 20 years down the line before we can effectively see change. We can only do that if we start with the younger generation on teaching them how to properly raise their children. Bringing morals and ethics back into, families. If I can remember, late 80s, early 90s, that's when we started seeing commercials and everything, or they started telling you, don't spank your children, put them on timeout, timeout is effective and all this. Well, we see the effects of what timeout did today. Kids have no respect for adults. They don't have respect for themselves. They don't have respect for each other. Nobody has morals. There's no, it's hard to watch a video of kids jumping a person and start stomping. You know what I mean? It's like, where's your sympathy? They don't have sympathy in their heart. So for me, I think it needs to be some organizations, even if it's court ordered, if a young parent goes through something, they need to be have to go take child parenting classes. What those child parenting classes look like, I'm gonna go left. There needs to be some spanking or whatever. That's the traditional stuff. Go back to the traditional ways, because where we're headed now, no, I don't. I think it's only gonna get worse.
Thank you so much for that feedback, Ephraim. Go ahead.
No, I just brought up chivalry because I know we were moving into that segment a little bit. The definition that I'm sure the one that applies is number 3, which is gallant or distinguished gentleman, is what I'm assuming we were referring to, which again is abstract because that's all based on perspective of what we think that is. And then we're kind of back in the circular reasoning of using our own ideas as the basis, or ideas and traditions as the basis by which we judge others as being good or bad, right or wrong.
So do you
Mhm.
think that it's lack of chivalry, or do you think that it's women equality? What do you think is one of the main contributors to our broken homes and the number rising consistently?
I think the main thing is they kind of play off each other because, like you said, women's rights, women wanting more equality based off of what threshold. You're always going to have that measuring stick. That measuring stick, is who? The standard common man. And then, of course, whenever you want to make yourself equal to whatever that standard is, whoever the standard is going to feel threatened because they're like, you're trying to take my spot, trying to take my spot flash. And they're like, wait a minute. If you're equal to me, then that makes me a reduction of who I am because now we're the same. So men in their minds, and I'm not saying all men, I'm saying some men, and I ain't saying all women, I'm saying some women, it's hard for them to see we can both do it at the same time as what Dr. Jones is saying. We can all do it together. The roles are interchangeable because every household is different. There's no one standard that we use to build a household. Whenever you try to do that, the household falls because you're trying to imitate somebody else's household. Every household don't work for every other household. You got to have your own household that makes its own standard based off the circumstances that is required for you guys to successfully parent and live with each other. I think the problem is we try to imitate these traditions, these guidelines, these rules, and then we end up failing because we don't meet that standard, which is impossible to meet. Our parents' households, grandparents' households, those traditions, they are meant to be changed and morphed into what helps you to achieve the best you and your family today. You can't use past things to try to make present things work. You can use them as a basis, but you got to build on top of them. If you try to keep it the same, it's not going to work. We can't use the same things, technologies that we used previously. If we try to use that today, we're going to be like, man, I ain't using no rotary phone. I'm not going to use no wagon. We ain't finna go on that route, man. I'm not finna walk. What, we using camels? No, you got airplanes, you got jets, you got technology, we got Wi-Fi, we got all of this social media that is accessible to us so we can make the world smaller in order to communicate and express ourselves in a wider scale. So all that to be said, the same thing has to be done with the household. It has to change. That means it has to meet today's expectations. Otherwise, we're going to keep basically what Dr. Holloway said is not bad. It's just that you'll keep saying these kids today, man, they ain't doing nothing. Oh man, look at them, they're horrible. Oh man, everything falling apart. It's falling apart because you're used to comparing what you're used to against today's standards, and it ain't gonna work. But you got to see where it is now and how it morphed into its own identity. It's still you. It's still the past. It's just something different. Same thing as we all go through.
Dr.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, Ephraim, because at the end of the day, what I was going to say is, what about those 2-parent households when the kids still turn out horrible? And I don't like calling kids horrible, but let's start getting into some ugliness. Sometimes things got to get broken down to the very last compound so you can rebuild that formula the correct way, right? So you can change your household. So one of the ugly things is when Danelle, Miss Wright, was talking, she said What if I got 2 jobs? What if I can't be there? You know what that's a form of? Absentee. So you're an absent parent even though you live in the house. You can have 2 parents living in the house and one can still be absent. That's why earlier I was talking about we need to have definitions, and that's how we can start teaching our kids. Define what being a protector is. What does that look like? And if you can't show, then the Boys and Girls Club, like Mr. Holloway said, or something like that, programs. I mean, Handle a Helping Hands is a nonprofit that I founded, and we have parenting classes. We teach conflict resolution. And I think that's one of the classes everybody should take, conflict resolution, before even getting in a marriage. Better yet, in a relationship. We don't know how to deal with conflict. Yes, go ahead.
Do you have members that are part of that class that are showing improvement in their conflict resolution with their families, children, spouses?
From youth to adult to our elderly, literally. You know, a lot of times we miss our young adults, you know, and we get a lot of kids that they get court ordered. You know, and in teaching anger management, we teach conflict resolution as well. Now they're learning how to deal with their peers and their family members. Mm-hmm. You know, and elderly, believe it or not, has a lot of conflict too. I hate to say that, but they start learning how to talk to each other, how to listen. Right. You know, one of the simple things is, are you listening to wait for your turn to talk? Are you listening so you can understand what somebody's saying? We're starting to hear those things, right? Because we don't listen well. Right. And then your great grandmother tell you, well, God gave you 2 eyes to see, 2 ears to listen, and only 1 mouth. So why you ain't listening? You even got 2 nostrils, so you can smell that good food, right? So at the end of the day, I think that when we're changing our household, we need to have some definitions. What does a protector mean? What does being a provider mean? It's okay for a woman to be able to provide. It's about to get ugly real quick. However, if she makes $2 more than a man, she thinks she's a man of the household, and now her daughter thinks that she can be a man of a household. Just saying. Mm-hmm. Women can walk away from their responsibility of taking care of a child. I know we talk about chivalry and fatherlessness, but you know, these things tie into each other. A woman can have an abortion without a man's consent. A woman can give her baby up for adoption without a man's consent, and I'm in California. She can abandon her child, and what do? We figure out laws because we're about our children. We don't want no kids hurt in grape fields or in fields by trash cans, so we say, hey, instead of you putting your kid out there, just bring them to a hospital. So we find ways to help the woman be irresponsible, but if a man can't actually afford, like I'm out here trying to provide, he's still considered a deadbeat. If he decides I don't want to have that child, he's not a man anymore. And I'm not putting women down. Again, my movement is equal rights. So how can we have a household that's not divided if we really truly don't have equal rights? Just because the woman carried a baby, I love my mom, my aunties. And if they on here, I love you guys. Don't beat me up. At the end of the day, you carried a child. We get it. But it's our child at the end of the day. So why don't I have equal rights? If I decide I want to walk away, I still should be considered a man because I made a decision.
So, Doc.
Yes.
So are you saying that, and I'm just kind of summarizing, that women, and it's not a divisive thing, but it's just kind of one of those obvious things. I noticed that women want the sameness, uniformity of parental rights, I guess social norms and standards that men have. But a lot of times I notice that when men want the same thing on that side, it's rejected and seemed as if it's threatening and we're overstepping our boundaries. That's kind of what I'm getting, because it's complicated like that. Because you mentioned rights, parental rights and such. That's one of the big ones. But a lot of women say because you're not involved in the child's lives at a high standard, then you don't deserve to have a say so. But that's not all men.
Exactly. What you said at the end. I mean, exactly. So I have to be involved on a certain level to be considered a father. Even if I'm giving you $50 a month because that's all I can afford as a man, and I'm doing the best I can, I'm a deadbeat still. However, if I can provide you with $10,000 a month and child support, I'm a great father. I don't even have to spend time with that kid, that child, that little boy, that little girl, and I'm a great father. Those are the issues we need to beat down and fix. And that's how our nuclear families will start coming back together, in my personal and professional opinion, because I see it all. Maybe not absolutely everything, but I see a lot in my profession and just my childhood and growing up, professionally and personally. So all I'm saying is, black and white, when a woman fights for her equal rights, I'm right there with her. If the job title is the same, a woman should get the same pay. That's what I'm talking about, child care. I'm not putting a woman down for having an abortion. Whatever her reason is her reason. However, that's still saying I don't want responsibility of this child. When she give her child up for adoption, that's saying I don't want the responsibility of this child. Why can't a man do that? I'm just, that's a real deep question. I just really want some of our viewers or somebody to really answer without it being a man versus woman response. Seriously, if a woman can walk away, that's just real stuff. Why can't a man walk away? She can drop the baby off at the church. She won't get no abandonment charges. She can drop the baby off at a fire department. Because we went through an era. I don't know, Mr. Holloway, or if any of you guys know the time, but remember, we went through an era where women were killing their children. Mm-hmm. So the law started changing. And that's what you're talking about, Ephraim. We got to change the household. Well, the laws change when we start seeing things happen in the world. We start changing the laws. When are we going to start changing our households? And are the way we think? I don't think women are bad because I feel like men should have equal rights. I think that we should just have equal rights.
Let me say this from a woman's perspective, being the only woman on the panel. I would agree with a lot of what the men on the panel are saying. If there are any females or women listening, I am a single mom. I have dealt with some deadbeat dads. So I would still, however, have an unbiased opinion, because everything that you guys have said is absolutely true. And me being a woman can't take that away from you. So you guys have my complete support in everything that you guys have said in regards to what men need, the inequality, the stereotypes. Like, I even did a video about my own stereotype because I didn't want my daughter to go spend the night with somebody, with a female friend of hers that's being raised by a single father, because you have that fear that they're incompetent. You feel like a man that's raising their children is incompetent, and it's always believed that the woman is more capable. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with those stereotypes. Another thing that I want to say is we have a question on one of the boards. Mr. Jeremiah Tuck says, "Peace, Danelle. Question, please. Do you subscribe to one individual leading a family?" I wanted to read that as I was talking, because from a woman's perspective, I absolutely do. I believe in a woman being able to be independent and submissive at the same time. I don't believe it's a knock. I don't believe that makes us beneath the man. I believe that when everybody is effectively content with fulfilling their own roles, the ship runs smoother. I don't want to be in a man's position. I don't want to have to do what a man is designed to do. It is too much on me as a woman. I humbly submit to the equipped man that knows how to lead a family. The difference is we have to be wiser as women and not select men that we wouldn't follow. So when you are more selective and not just sleeping around because you have an emptiness, not just exposing your body and your womb to carry another man's seed when they're not even showing you that they could take care of themselves, or that they're interested in being a father or being a family. So we have to take more accountability, because this is our wound. And if we want to have the rights to say I can get rid of this baby, we also have the right to say I'm going to protect my body from having one. So yes, accidents happen, but most of the times it could have been prevented. That's number one. And then I would say, in regards to one person leading the home, God created masculinity and femininity from himself, in my opinion. Now, you can disagree, but it is in my opinion that God is both masculine and feminine. So when we're dealing with the fact that we are made in his image, coming together, we are like God, masculine and feminine. But the masculine is external. It is an expression, an outward expression, just like his genitals. Whereas a woman is internal, the intuition. Everybody always says women intuition, women intuition. It's because we have that internal spiritual gift. So the reason why I would mention that is to say this: we have different qualities. We bring different things to the table. And because I believe that the man is covering, he's the one that's exposed, he's the one that's protecting, that means that he's putting himself out in the forefront to take responsibility for the household. And that man, any woman, in my opinion, who's wise, will follow.
That's well said.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, you touched on a lot.
Well said. And you touched on the masculinity side of things, right? Men don't want a woman with masculine energy. That's what she just said. So at the end of the day, I don't want a woman that's playing football. That's personally me. That's just me. That's a barbaric sport. I don't need a woman that's like she said, taking on a man's role. Just let us do our thing. Y'all do your thing. We come together and be one. And the division will stop, and we can start getting our nuclear families back. Because honestly, men that I talk to don't want to be in a household no more. They don't want to be in a family no more. So they just like, I'm done with it. And to me, that comes from that masculine energy that they're getting. And I just think, Danielle, you really hit the nail on the head with that one. So I'm gonna just leave it at that.
If I could just ask a question real quick.
Go ahead.
Sure.
And after while he's asking this question, can you check the boards to see if there's any other questions or comments? Go
Yep,
ahead,
definitely.
Mr. Holloway.
Okay.
Going back to what she first said in the beginning, though, and it's just a question, and I'm just using her example because she said it. So she said she was or am the woman that had went through with the deadbeat dads. So my question, and this goes back to what Dr. Jones was saying earlier, my question is, when a woman gives up her child, she no longer, or whatever, for whatever reason, like Dr. Jones said, is she considered a deadbeat mom?
You ready for me to answer that?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely. And not only that, mothers that aren't deadbeat moms just because they're in the house doesn't mean that they don't exploit their children. That doesn't mean that they don't use their children to fulfill the emptiness that their fathers didn't feel. Like, we have to deal with the fact that just because you're the custodial parent don't mean you're the best parent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mothers that are parents that have no training. They're broken to the point that they are traumatizing their children.
Yeah.
Like, that needs to be addressed. Just because you're a single parent doesn't make you a good parent.
I'm gonna take a step back a little bit. Something Dr. Jones said earlier. I was somewhat of a absentee father. I'm a truck driver, but I was still in the home, but I wasn't home very often. But the good thing about, my situation is that me and my ex, we were on the same page. And so I backed her up when I came home. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I think I have great children. They both been to college, they work hard, have a beautiful granddaughter. But I think when we're talking about parenting. It's just of course, it's an individual thing, but it's mindset. It's mindset, and if we can change some people's mindsets, um, probably go a long ways with that.
Absolutely. Ephraim, you were going to say something?
I guess I'm the shit stirrer.
We gotta have one on the panel, right?
What do you, because we always refer to the roles, these roles, we got to get it back to certain roles, women's roles, men's roles, but the definition is always abstract because it's based off of what we think it should be according to what we've been raised to accept as the truth, which is all varying from each of us.
Let me say this because Dr. Jones said it too. And when you go to college, when you go to school, you are not learning everything you need to learn about your career. You are not learning, if you're a doctor, you're not going to learn everything you need to know. You're going to learn the basics, and the rest of it is going to come with experience. So, when it comes to roles and the foundation that we lay for our family, number one, it has to fit with your structure and your purpose. And then once you know your purpose and where you headed, you have to pick somebody that's going to complement that. And then when it comes down to what you're teaching your children and in regards to the roles, it really ties into just the foundation. Like, in my opinion, every man wants to be respected and every woman wants to feel protected. Now, I can work just as hard as my man. A Proverbs 31 woman is going to go out there and she's going to make money too. If my man can't pay the bills, I'm going to make sure that our house stays afloat. Why? Because he has instilled in me what he is. So when he's not capable, that's where that help me comes out. That's where I'm able to fill in the gaps. Even when he's working, I don't want him to work too hard. Let me work with you so we can both have some time off to rest, so we can both have a quality of life. So in my opinion, the foundation is every man wants respect and every woman wants to feel protected. That's just my opinion. That's just Danny's take on things.
Let me chime in. And when it comes to men and women being in a relationship, if they're supposed to be a team, why is it there's an issue with roles? Every team players have roles. Football, basketball, everybody got roles.
In my opinion, the reason why the roles have become convoluted is because equality. And not only that, because our culture, and I'm talking about the Black culture, there's been strategic. There's been strategies put into place to keep us divided. So we're not going to act like there aren't social economic issues. We're not going to act like there isn't racist issues. We're not going to act like the prison system don't affect us. We're not going to act like there hasn't been poison filtered into our community. So that plays a role too. But what can we do in regards to what we have control of? That's what the conversation, and we could talk all day long about how we're attacked, but what do we have control of that we can change? And in my opinion, we can strengthen the unity within our culture and within our communities and within our families. It has to go back to us respecting each other. We have to teach our children and show our children how we can respect each other and expect nothing less of them. And then maybe our family structure, like you say, will kind of get back to where it was designed to be, where we actually can co-live together without driving each other crazy.
Well, with that being said, I think we're reaching our closing point because that was well put. That pretty much put the nail in the coffin. We got so much meat on this, man. I know we could, because I want to go so many places. Doc, I know, Mr. Holloway, I know you too, but I know we ain't got time. So we're going to have to.
Before we end things, I want to give Dr. Jones an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your book. Tell us where we can find it. Give us your contact information. So if any of our viewers want to follow you and they want to see what you're up to, what you're doing, where you'll be speaking, where they can get your book, and then also what kind of things is your mission? What is your mission? What is your purpose? And then if you can give us some closing words to Mr. Holloway.
Yeah, my book can be found on Amazon. Danielle, can you put the link in the regular comments so that they can have it? And
I sure will.
And then my website will be put on there. My journey is just equal rights. My book, it talks about, it's just like the title says, Stressors of Fatherhood. The reason you say a distinctively unique perspective is because I'm coming from a perspective that people don't like. And it's been buried. But we need to get there so that we can start coming together as parents and not divided as single father, single mother. So that book takes you into on a journey to where it's like, hey, men do deserve equal rights. And we might, with just having equal rights, may or may not, but we won't know unless we get there, right? If it's going to turn a family around. So, we have a men's mental health initiative. We have a youth mental health mentorship program. So that's what we're about as far as Dr. Jones and the things that I do for my community, our community. So yeah, check out the link. You can buy my book at Amazon. Read it. You can get the Kindle for free if you have Amazon Prime. If not, it's $4.99. The book is $19.99. So just, maybe skip Starbucks twice, or don't buy that sack and just buy the book. It's good information.
Absolutely. Did you want to leave your contact information, email address, or anything?
Yes.
Or website?
Yeah, they can contact me through the website. We have a page on the website where they can just fill out the form and it'll come directly to my team.
And what's your website?
HandleItHelpingHands.org.
Okay, gotcha. And Mr. Holloway, did you want to say anything else in closing, Dr. Jones?
I do want to say, we as a people, meaning humanity, we just need to start listening to each other and stop being so quick to be mad at what you heard. Just take it in. Whether it sit right with you or not, hey, you're not going to like everything you hear, but embrace it and see if you can do something with it. But don't put the person down who said it. That as simple as that. Just embrace it. That's it. Thank you. And I'm glad I was invited. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
So it was a pleasure meeting you both. I enjoyed the conversation. Real quick, I'll just say, anybody who's watching this, be kind to one another, love one another, and just be a cheerful giver.
Thank you so much, Mr. Holloway. You brought some interesting nuggets, and I want to invite you back on again. We got to dig back deeper into this. We got to dig into some of the questions y'all asked, like what is providing? What is a protector? What is the definition of a man? What do you got? We got to get into that. We got to get into it. So if you guys don't mind coming back and joining me again as a guest on a later show, before I let you close it out, Mr. Acapella, I am going to say this. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. I want to give a special thanks to my guests and everybody that took the time out of their day, because what we are trying to do is make a change and a difference in our community. We are about our purpose and we are serious. You can look for any of us on social media, YouTube, Facebook, our websites, and we are out here trying to make a difference in lives. So if you related to anything that we said and you want to reach out to any of us directly, feel free to do so on social media. Just to my women, we're strong, we're intuitive, and our men need us, just like we need our men. Let's get out of our macho mentality and start listening a little bit more so that our men can support us while we support them back. And as I always say on my videos, be a blessing so that you might be blessed. Until next time.